Well, things not going quite maybe how Fusion would have wanted them when we got to see the run back of Pearl yet again and the run back of the same composition we got to see when they went up against the Union in the group stage. But maybe going on into our next match with Fracture, that's where we can start to see the turnaround. It was a really fun match to watch over on Pearl, Dan. And there was a couple of rounds that we wanted to go into a little bit deeper before we get into our next match.
Yeah, something that we talked about towards the beginning was the pressure that Fusion was going to have on this attacking side to make sure that they had enough rounds if the defense was not going to look strong. But look at how difficult it was. That 7-5 was clearly not enough for Fusion because of the pressure that this defensive side from the Union was bringing to them, giving them no opportunities and always pushing them to this B side where Askia was going to be and was going to become a nightmare for them. You saw towards the beginning of the round a push with the KO knife towards A. That's going to delay any sort of aggression early on for Fusion. Towards mid, you have two players, one towards Link being panked. That Shift got the chance to talk about the amount of first bloods that this guy was getting, and then a double from Art. That is not giving you any space to work, but on that B side, that was getting denied by the Jet by themselves. So it's so difficult, and it is the many kind of different things that we got to see from the Union that continue to make this team the strongest one, even as on the other side of Fusion tried to adapt playing faster, tried to catch the team of the Union off guard. It was just not enough for the rounds that they needed. And so that puts us in an interesting position thinking about what is going to happen on Fracture, right? A map that is kind of the opposite, where you're looking at that aggression happening on that defensive side more often than not.
And I think the thing too that gives, the Union a bit of a leg up here is just, even in that clip that you rolled, and this happened a number of different times, is their ability to be aware of what ultimates are available on both sides and how are we going to use that. And more often than not, it did come in the form of playing for retake. And that's something that we're definitely going to start to see when we get Fracture on the board, a map that's definitely going to stretch out this defense a touch. But we know what we should expect when it comes down to what the Union likes to play here. They love to play Breach, they love to play Sage, they love to play Brimstone. So those three in particular, I think, have a really good opportunity to continually try to build up that retake pressure that you're going to be likely to see here, especially when we get to, both sides of both these two teams, rather, on the defensive sides for Fracture.
You also see two different approaches in a couple rounds when it comes to these ultimates between the two teams. A Union that uses the ultimates in the way that you expect, right? On those big rounds that you want to secure, on those rifle rounds as well, where you want to have the entry with a breach hold, when you want to create a little bit more space. But on the other side, a Fusion that we've seen in a couple rounds investing ultimates into these eco rounds. And honestly, a lot of the times, as we got to see on Pearl into one of those replays, investing something like a Viper Spit and not working. This is kind of familiar now for Fusion, wanting to take that risk into the eco round, seeing if they can turn those thrifties their way. But it's definitely not easy, especially once again going back to that aggression that the Union like to bring on the defense, and how most likely it is going to happen on this map.
I feel like what's really interesting, though, in this rematch is this is where we start to see a little bit of a shift up from the teams, because it's going to be Fusion starting on the defense this time around. And this was something, too, that when we got to see the last time these two faced, Fusion did not necessarily have the greatest time on that defensive end.
No, they look terrible. I mean, let's just put it the way it is. It was a 6-0 stomping by the Union on the offensive side with really no effort that you ever saw from the Fusion to kind of lead us otherwise. It's another one of those situations, though, you kind of look across what we're going to expect from the Union. They're going to put Askia on the raise, and he likes to just burst on in towards sight and almost be the bait for the rest of his team. So that's another moment where if you're looking at this from Fusion, you should know what to expect here. And their usual composition of bringing in a Fade and a Killjoy in comparison of the Sage and Sentinel on the other side should allow you to at least to give up a little bit of space in order to reclaim it and contest the spike plant a bit more regularly than what they were trying to do last time around, which was trying to be aggressive, use utility to take over space. The problem is when you're on Fracture and you have a team like the Union on the other side, they're going to read what your play is supposed to be and then hit you on the other side where you don't have the numbers. So I would like to see Fusion play a bit more reactionary here and get an idea as far as where do we think Union are going to hit and how can we possibly contest a spike plant rather than trying to contest at the front door of the sites themselves. Give a little bit of space, contest on top of the site, and play with more numbers this time around, because defensively speaking, last time for Fusion, they were just empty. They were completely amiss pretty much all the way across the board, and Union didn't have many problems breaking down these sites.
even on the attacking side, it felt like for that time that they face each other, the Fusion could have done a lot more. And part of it, the reason why they were getting shot down so many times was because of Pank. And we just talked about this guy. He is insane on the Sentinel role. He's insane at strongholding one of the sites, one of the areas of the map, and making sure nobody is gonna pass it. We got to see it on Killjoy, on Pearl, but on Cypher here for Fracture, it is no different. He has some really cool setups, some of them very unique to this team, and it's gonna shut down the aggression that Fusion sometimes like to bring to them. And now that is gonna depend so much more on how Edu is gonna play, most likely that Fade once again, and the Prowler that I feel like was lacking in so many scenarios to create that space to break the strap wires, to detect where they're going to be, so Verdi can be a lot safer when he's going into sight.
The one thing we can take just as a bit of inspiration though for Fusion was, as mismanaged as some of their post-plant holds were the first time these two teams played, they did figure it out. And a lot of it did come from the fact of put a little bit more pressure onto Pank. Don't allow him just to get his free setup and then we're dashing on into things like trap wires and cyber cages. Let's see if we can bait out some of that utility first and then hit aggressively. And to be fair, that's something they did yesterday. So again, I want to see the team from yesterday, from a construction standpoint, from mentality standpoint, put pressure on this Union defense first and then use your characteristic aggression to hit at the right moment to where you can catch these guys off guard. Because the Union, with the last time they played, was very happy to play retake, and it felt like Fusion was committing way too much too early to where their post plant was very, very soft. So that has to change coming into this matchup today if they want to find a way to get to a third map.
Well, that's where things get interesting for me. So do we think then, in that first match that we got to see on Pearl, that we saw enough of this team from yesterday, despite the fact that Fusion did take that loss, that we believe that maybe going on forward into today, Dan, that we could be seeing that team from yesterday, we could be seeing something that is a little bit more closer, more cohesive from this squad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that the first map was Pearl, and this is a map where the Union is incredibly dominant and especially as we've gotten to see throughout Ascension. So even though there were some kind of adaptations and a Fusion that looked more solid in so many cases, it was not going to be enough. I mean, the Union, just looks so coordinated on this map, but on Fracture, it can be a different story. And Fusion throughout Latin America, when they were playing Challengers, this is a map where they were constantly good at. And I feel like, yes, it's going to go down to how this defensive side is going to look like, thinking about the many points that we talked about when it comes to those ultimates and how they're going to get utilized early on. When they played this match, there were so many ultimates that were actually being saved for 3-4 rounds. That cannot happen. That is your win condition to get ahead.
I'm just still so worried when we're looking at the fact that Fusion is starting on the defense and the fact that it didn't go so well the first time around, that this then shift could just be that land side to just really set the stage and set the Union up for all the success in this map too.
I think if you're the Union, you expect that flat out. I mean, you went flawless in your group stage. You looked clean on every single map that you played, which, to be fair, was a pretty good number. So, I mean, you have to be coming out feeling like you're the best team right now in VCT Ascension, which means that you should be beating the number 2 LATAM team, especially a group that did not win a single map throughout the group. So I think it's one of those things that your confidence is going to be super high here for the Union. I don't expect them to try to do anything different. This is not a matchup where you look at the coaching staff and say, oh, we have to do something weird to catch Fusion off guard. Like, it's on the onus of Fusion to have to make problems occur for the Union, because at the moment everything has been so comfortable. Even in map number 1, the same storylines that we've been talking about all through groups once again were occurring. Good team play, good chemistry, good cohesion in terms of how do we want to hit, when do you want to hit, and who's going to be able to do what. On top of that, you also have a major playmaker X factor in the form of your Jet. This time, it's going to be on Raze, of course, so trust the fact that your star potential will carry you in tight moments, which it did last map. There's no reason the Union should feel uncomfortable coming to this map too.
I definitely feel like after that first map, no reason to feel uncomfortable. So I'm really interested and intrigued to see where Fusion heading on into today's map is going to be swapping something up, because how things fared over on Fracture last time on the defensive, Dan, something has to change. There has to be some sort of crack here.
Something that Kamikaze once again talked about, he tweeted about saying on that second half, we could have done a lot more. We lost a lot of big chances to turn things around, make sure that it doesn't snowball to the side of the Union. So yeah, exactly. Now when you start on it, I feel like it does give you that benefit, potentially winning that pistol, getting that momentum that we even got to see in that first matchup, as it was a Union trying to adapt to what Fusion was going to bring, and that kind of X factor that we don't really know about how it's gonna play out. Also, depending on Mitted, the IGL specifically, this guy has been insane, has quite a lot of experience, has proven he can find success for Latin America North for the first time ever, and now he has the task to take us to that map number 3. It's gonna depend so much on how it's gonna start off for Mitted specifically, and looking at the performance that he has, it's been good, right? It's been even better than some other IGLs, but you need to be able to handle that pressure just right.
That's the flashback to the tweet right at the top of show coming out from Edu here. The last sentence on that being that pleasure to be in the backpack of the best IGL at Mitted. So yeah, of course, when there was a couple of rounds where there could have been something more, just a little bit swap up from the team, I'm very then intrigued shift headed into today. He said in the calling and where that is going to be that difference maker.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that will come onto the defensive side, flat out. That's one of the things that, again, was puzzling them. And when you've got a player like Mitted, who's the one who's supposed to be controlling the space, you have to know what your information you have before you can make a call. And I will say, outside of the fact that Mitted needs to make good decision makes, but it starts for me with Darker. His ability to get his utility to connect was key for them when they were playing up against 0-0 Nation. That's going to have to be the case again, as it looks like our agent select's coming through. And yeah, nothing's really changed here. Everyone's playing the same composition that we've expected. So it's another one of those, well, for the Union, it ain't broke, don't fix it. For Fusion, it was broken. You started to fix it yesterday. Can you keep improving upon that? Because I still think there were some vulnerabilities when they were playing on this map yesterday.
And how good is the read from Fusion going to be this time around, especially with the stage that plays on the other side? So unique to the Union, so good, but also there's only so many things that you can do with the stage, right? The way they're shutting down plays. And we saw Fusion trying to adapt throughout it, which now they're going to have the chance to do so on that second half to see if they can make it a little bit more competitive.
Well, if we're going to get the Fusion from yesterday, I'm excited for what's to come as we head on over to Fracture. Or is it just going to be the Union that is yet again going to continue on this 2-0 streak? We're going to toss this one over to Sully and Upmind to find out.
Thank you so much, guys. You guys have broke this one down perfectly. The way that Union are playing Fusion will need something new and unique, because the way it's going, it is feeling like a 2-0 right now.
I mean, Fusion, they have to be scared, shaking in their boots. The Union, they've been perfect on Fracture, whether it be, of course, during Ascension or in Brazil. Fusion needs to be scared.
And it is because Union have been a very well-drilled team on this map. We've seen them play it 3 times and dominate every single team. Apologies, 2 times. This is the 3rd time. And Fusion will try to switch things up with a little bit more aggression towards this B side.
Oh, and Verdi starts it off with a bang. Big shot onto Pank. Everyone else from Union running for the hills, running over towards A. But it's only one person on A. Fusion are going to go for a retake, surely. Unless this Nanoswarm can actually delay some time, there's still players rotating in spawn.
And look at the wall that's been thrown up by Rafa. They're going to try and isolate a fight towards defender spawn.
Askia spraying away, everyone else spraying away in the middle of spawn, but not a single bullet getting hit. Everyone from Fusion still alive, and everyone on this side of the map.
I'm a big fan of the way that this is going for Fusion. They've been able to retake all the way towards Sands and spawn. This is a good point here to focus on A main.
Not a lot of utility here to use here. If you're Union, here comes MTK, still has double flash, but he finally goes down. Good stuff from Edu. 2-man advantage from Fusion. They've really chipped it down now for Rafa and Goo. Now start to scratch their heads. They have no idea when the defuse is coming in, but now it finally goes through the smoke. It's all on Goo. Goo lines up one, but it's only the one.
And a lot different from Fusion in this pistol round. The last 2 times that we've seen them play, they aren't aggressive in these early opening duels, but they actually push deep towards B and don't overheat. I love the fact that Theory just pops that Nanoswarm and buys time, allows his whole team to rotate in, and you can see how methodical they are. First, they break the wall towards tower, and working as a team, right, using the fault line, using the Brim Smoke to take space back away from the Union. A much more aggressive opening from Fusion, and it's something that we'll have to maintain throughout the rest of this map. That's the first time they've ever taken a round as well off the offensive side of Union, which is already boding pretty good.
Exactly that. We didn't see a single defensive round from Fusion. The last game against Union, Union had a perfect attacking side to wrap up their game. What was it, 13-6, I think. Now Union, for the first time we really get to see at least some of their cheekier plays. They all have to pack up with pistols, really have to shock Fusion going into the take. Verdi's on the front side looking to cut it all down. With one contact, he throws out a nade, and that already evades the take here from Union.
Capitalize on ult towards for NTK. Pank as well has gotten some space towards Arcade, so they might try and rework under. Yeah, they are going to try and I think get the orb here for NTK. Union love to kind of use NTK and Oskia as the two big catalysts. NTK specifically with his util setting Oskia up for a lot of great dives, which we'll see later on in this half. And this is a Union team that on this map of Fracture, the reason why their offense is so good is not only because of how well drilled they are with their exit, but also just, this is a multi-lane map and it is extremely hard to predict where Union will get aggressive. And so Fusion, I think in this map, it's again, gonna have to be them getting aggressive, taking a lot of early space away from the Union, and that space and that map control will allow them to make good rotates and predict where Union will play. It's that unpredictability with Union's 4-lane hits that have made teams struggle, like M80.
Cutting down the lanes would be nice, but at least getting a better picture of what's going on in those lanes is gonna be the big part there for Fusion.
Union will be a team that will constantly switch up where they're putting pressure, and as they will get the rifles out here on the board, Fusion, not a lot to be too happy about. It started off this way on Pearl as well, but this defensive side will have to be, not flawless, but it will have to be a lot better than the last time they played it, that's for sure.
Uh-oh, Pank. For a bit of a different look, he's going to be the only person popping out of A main.
Look at the setup. Darker's already got a fall line. As soon as Pank swings, he'll get punished here.
I mean, once Fusion see that there's only one person here, they might send out an early rotation too.
And they should expect the play towards Dish. And I look at the quick recognition. There should be a timed smoke here, as that orb gets picked up as well. NTK farming these early rolling thunder orbs. Meated, not in a spot where he can get a kill and pop this ultimate. Maybe if he's very quick about it. But for now, Union are kind of split apart. This is the first time we're really seeing a 3-man exec.
Oh, Fusion are just reinvesting into this with the repositioning from Darker. But however, Meated gets exposed. And Verdi can't do any more. Darker, with his reposition, he no longer has an eye now on this take from Union.
Planted.
Cleanly into sight. Now these SMGs of Fusion are going to have to do a lot of work.
Yeah, this wall has just been such an issue for a lot of teams trying to make a retake happen on the A site. Union, I have to say, I think this one's a done deal. They're just so good in these post plants. Unless Fusion can crunch in this A main, the reason why Union are so good on this A site is because of the setups and the crossbars that they have. You can see here already.
And TK is going to be that first pick, but like you said, there's layers to this. Multiple players here from Union lined up to try to take this battle. Double on site, double over towards A main. No chances there for Fusion. Not a single one of the SMGs gets a kill back at the end of the round. Union are clean with their buy.
Yeah, very nice exec from Union. Again, a very well-drilled team, even making a 3-man exec happen towards Dish. They had 2 players for that A main, late control for the post plant. And NTK and Oskia, once again, setting their team up early. The fault line on site, and Oskia to find that entry, avoiding the eyes of Verdi. But Fusion will have their rifles on. We have seen them get aggressive in 2 rounds, the pistol and that 3rd round. They're actually vying for some space, but not this time. They'll take into account this NTK rolling thunder, I think, and don't want to get caught out by it.
It's still forward positioning, to say the least, from Fusion. 3 players currently crawling their way down tree.
And you should expect now an A hit here. No util drawn out yet from Edu. So this is where Union thrive, but losing Roth early is definitely gonna hurt.
It's just the one for now. Pank! That would have been such a good gift there for Union if they were able to pick the one back.
And look at Meated, he's already in rotation. He used his orbital strike. He could deny the spike here.
Is he close enough? No, he's not. The plan is gonna go down free. They can cut down an angle, though, with this orbital.
2 ultimates on the board, 2 massive ults. Fusion have got the orbital strike, and Union have got the rolling thunder for this post. And look at where NTK is playing. He wants to push them back from spawn as they enter.
Oh, Goo! He almost gets exposed, but there goes the C's. Does not connect onto Goo again. Goo getting pressured, but he's still able to get a kill. Can he get a few more? Orbital strike now coming up for Goo, and that's a massive orbital. That's a massive ultimate. Still an advantage here for Union, and it is Goo putting a stamp of approval on the round so far. Theory is trying to bring it back, but what is the swing? All the way out in the open. NTK gets exposed, but Pank finishes it off. Sweat off the brow of Union.
It was actually Meated using his orbital strike to push Pank off that angle. but it wasn't something that they smoked, and Pank playing a crossfire with Goo right underneath, just annihilating players as they come out tower. And that crossfire between the two of them, Goo and Pank, keeping players back, and there was no ults used here in the post plant by Union whatsoever. They still will have the Rolling Thunder, and now in addition to Goo's play, they'll have the Orbital Strike to work with. Fusion, I think, had everything right there. But again, Union in those post plants, adjusting quickly, adapting, and getting aggressive.
Askia, bit of a showcase in terms of his satchels and everyone just getting.
Yeah, this util from Union, the way they use this Sage, they maximize every piece of her util. Rafa's got a lineup with Goo that the Brim and slow word Molly in front of defenders spawn, and kind of, I think the slow even creeps towards drop, just catches players there, and that's why Askia is able to get a very easy entry, just isolating a fight.
Or at least like as confident as he was. There goes Rafa again. He still has a slow orb alongside the heal, but he's just fighting, pushing the situation a little bit. There goes finally the round back for Union. It's big now for Fusion.
4 ultimates for Union to work with. Looking rough here in this next 5 ultimates. God.
Oh my God.
Not even just 4 or 5. And the way they'll combo them is we'll see that Rolling Thunder probably get used with Askia and his Showstopper. And Fusion are a team, again, that understand how teams will play these ultimates. But you're up against 5. It's very hard no matter what to counter, because you can layer that util perfectly. Even if you were to get his lockdown,
right,
you can either pressure with the Rolling Thunder, or you can take it out with just the Orbital Strike.
Are they going to depend on some of this early information too, Edu? As the Nightfall already, but everyone from Union going all the way over towards B. Now they can get that under control.
Fusion just playing a full retake. In theory, we'll be able to get the ult torp here, so they have a lockdown to work with in this retake. And Union,
an
empty site here. And Fusion will quickly play the retake. There's a lot of punish that can happen here. There's still a full kit from Meated, and even a full, not even full kit, apologies for Darker, but he at least can delay with flashes.
Ooh, double showstopper, and it's actually Birdie to win the battle. Goo takes a gun back with Darker alongside Birdie, not moving an inch. There goes the nade to try to deny, but it doesn't happen. NTK now fighting too, has one more to go over towards Tree. This could already win the war here for Union, as Edu gets taken down. Both Birdie and Darker, their positions are known, and now their exact positioning is known off the neural theft. They need to run for the hills. So Union's ultimate indeed does overwhelm at the end, but it was actually just NTK's picks at the end that really made it all happen.
Despite knowing that Rolling Thunder was going to come, I think Verdi had a good response to this Showstopper. Again, anticipating the combination between him by NTK and Askia, but not enough there for Fusion, as they can't maintain that site control. The pressure that Askia applies, pushing Fusion back just a little bit, and that's enough to get Union onto the site and get the spike down. And they still have got an ult left over in the form of Goo and in Rafa's Sage Res. But this back fight is kind of everything here. 2 players are isolated on site between Rafa and Goo, both fighting in arcade. And so that fight between Pank and Edu, specifically Pank coming at the perfect moment to support, or apologies, Pank and NTK, not Edu. Both fighting and taking those 2 flanks out will force Fusion into a tactical timeout, as they have got some ults they can utilize here as well.
Oh, this one's a big one coming up. And Fusion down the barrel on the side where they weren't able to break through on the Union. They at least have the 2 rounds back. But it was good to at least see the battle back from Fusion. You know, the small little moments in that round. I love the fact that Verdi, he essentially takes away all of the attention from the rest of his team with the Showstopper. Essentially, that one Showstopper can really group up a kill.
And there are good moments from Fusion. We saw it on Pearl. We saw it again against 0-0 Nation on Fracture. It's just we're not seeing it here against a team that doesn't really make mistakes. Union are just such a well-drilled team, and we'll see more trap plays kind of come from them in the setups that they have. That last round was kind of just a sneak peek as to what they've got cooked up. We're going to see more of that Rolling Thunder, Askia combination with his Showstopper, even just sending him full into sights. Here you'll see a fast A play. This Molly slow orb lineup will catch these 2 players drop, and if Askia is able to get the entry in, he will catch these players as he comes out sand.
Now, like you said, unreal lineup.
Catching Theory.
That should lock these players over and drop. Askia coming in, now looking for the angle, and there picks up Theory again. Fusion. No. actual pieces in the middle of site to actually be able to hold this down. Union still have double ultimates at the moment. Oh, hoping not to use it. Hoping to actually hold it down for when Fusion actually get their guns back. But Edu, he's held on to this position the whole time. Ends up finally going down. Round back for Union. Big round coming up for Fusion.
We'll have the bye here, Fusion. Again, still that lockdown to work with. This next round does feel like a make it or break it for this half. A huge momentum swinging round between these two teams is up next, and Fusion would love to be the ones to get the better of it. Once again, Union just very well drilled in these zigzags. Not a lot you can do with just pistols, unfortunately, so they would have been happy with any kills, any extra damage, any ults, points they can gather up. But Union play that one extremely clean, and so this round will be, again, the momentum shifting, the game shifting round. Is Fusion vying for some aggression? There's maybe a combo here that could happen if there was one of the ultimates here, but neither.
Yeah, but there are so many players here. 3 players here. Verdi knocking in the first. Meathead getting in another kill. NTK getting pressured out. Still has a little bit of util to get himself the heck out. But he's the only one here. Needs to somehow get the spike back. He does.
We saw finally the combo between Darker and Verdi.
Oh no,
the res comes through.
Oh, Verdi! He almost lines up all of them. NTK once again having to do a cleanup job.
And they pop the ult. Oh, that's a feint though. They were hoping to get a tag to know if there were any players still arcade. I wonder if Fusion will still commit to this B site. And it looks like they have. Still 2 players here. And now that's a really well-timed Prowler as well. We'll get the info. And NTK, he's actually been given a 1v1. Look at this, Darker's not looking the right way. There's no one to support here.
This is gonna work out. Edu, again with the trade potential, but the cage actually isolates Darker potentially. Surely they know about Darker. Darker with the stun, and he's down. This has given Union a bit of a chance. Edu, yeah, he's been isolated, but can he actually get an angle in on NTK? NTK, he's been revealed. He has a little bit of util to use, but with 25 HP, he needs to run for the hills. They don't have the angle. They only need 1 bullet to get him, though, and they finally get him. Pank! This is an unbelievable angle. The trip. Can he actually get the bullet in onto Edu? Theory is down incredibly low. Pank now has to dance. He has the tower to use. Defuse is finally going in, though. Alarm bot in his face. He gets revealed. Edu off the spike, but what a jumping from Pank. Pank causing panic. Edu losing his mind, but still bouncing in a couple of bullets. He's all the way down to 20. Pank, this is all yours, my friend. And oh, the real paranoia, the real panic is this. He runs all the way to tower. Edu holds firm with the defuse and calls Pank out.
Oh, it's sticking it to half, just enough to get Fusion over the line. If that wasn't at half, if he was maybe a half-second quicker, Pank, he played that perfectly as well. Ridiculous movement and not to overcommit to the fight there in the 1v1. But this opening engagement, Verdi, we're seeing some life here from Fusion off that tactical pause. Looking to initiate early fights. A great flash from Edu, apologies, not Edu, to set his teammate up though, was Darker. And just barely getting there, but not quick enough there, Union.
Pank looking to be a hero again. He's been shut out completely. He was the only one on A.
And expecting a little bit more there, but instead the focus comes to Dish.
Yeah, everyone else coming out of Dish. 3 players coming out. Here comes Askia. Askia on the front side, able to get one, but they still have another player on site to deal with. Theory takes down Rafa, but they still don't know about the man on site. They still don't know about Meathead. Meathead, he even has the support coming out of main. Askia, he's now been completely isolated.
And they know Askia's here. They heard the double blast back, and they're just trying to flush this guy out of position, and they will.
Oh, and Theory finds Goo at the same time. NTK now in a 1v4.
Got the spike.
It's looking pretty disastrous to me. Fusion with a golden opportunity now to really cut this scoreline. Some cash left in the hands of Union for Fusion. This was a massive round to take back as they were about to get reset. NTK still with an ultimate to use. He was trying to isolate yet another 1v1. Darker low, 2 players on full. Not a lot of util for this team. NTK!
No!
Stop it! Not again! Meathead trying to be the myth for
No way!
But NTK closes it out!
I just can't understand. Fusion had that round in the palm of their hands, had 2 in a row. And I cannot believe they let this round go. And this is just 1v1s given to NTK. That was the only one that should have been given up. Darker had util, and so did Meathead. Well, I don't think actually Meathead had util, but still, Darker had something to get them an isolated fight on him. But NTK, how good is he in that clutch, and how big of a round was that to win for Union? That might have honestly just ended Fusion in this half.
Exactly that. I said it in the middle of the call. Fusion, they were on the brink of a reset, and now down to the pistols, down trying to fight with every little pixel that they're given, little piece of map control that they're given. Birdie was on the front side for the first contact. He had a showstopper and he wasn't able to use it. Still, a kill does come back. Edu trying to create some sort of chaos, but it just doesn't happen. And now we move on, basically. Two players left here for Fusion. And Union have firmly found themselves the advantage once again here on Fracture, but not exactly the way that we are anticipating.
He's just gonna go hunting. One enemy remaining. Pull that extra rifle out. And Darker on 1 HP.
1 HP.
And what a story for Union to start off this second map. A 1v4 clutch to just end Fusion on their defensive side, who have, props to them, gotten 3 rounds on the board. But losing that 1 versus 4 is gonna be heartbreaking, not just for this half, but probably for the rest of this map.
Absolutely.
And they've been dark horses the entire event. Dangerous, but never enough to be deadly. And they had signs against 0-0 Nation, but up against a team that doesn't make mistakes, that is extremely well drilled on this map in particular. Fusion needed to come in swinging. They did that, but now they need to be the closer here in these final 2 rounds.
Birdie feeling the pressure. Askia!
A little bit late.
Askia tries to get past Verdi, but Verdi takes him down immediately. Rafa! Nobody knows he's here! Rafa! He may have the easy kill on site. There's still the race to deal with. There's still the man in tower. But Rafa can't find Darker. They may have isolated Darker. But Darker continues the frag fest as Goo goes down immediately after. Verdi looking for another one. But Union once again put at a deep disadvantage.
So ready and so aware of these ults, Fusion. And honestly, this round probably keeps them in this game, to be completely honest. Union just expending 2 ultimates here to try and set them up, not using the NTK Rolling Thunder combination, but Verdi's still very aware of that possible entry. And that's the second time he's punished Asuka on his ultimate.
Oh, and a C's too. DK fighting away, Pank still helping out. This isn't possible, is it? Made a little bit less possible. Verdi hanging in a couple of shots through the smoke, but Pank almost starts off the party.
Though very, very risky to go swinging like
Last
that. Verdi.
round before the switch.
Especially after the 1v4 that NTK pulled up. I don't think you want to give up any 1v1s in that situation.
Hell
Fusion,
no.
though, will have at least a couple of ultimates coming into the front here. As we move into the final round of this half, this one again, a very well-played round for them. Darker maintaining control. He actually fights on site. And despite the last Rolling Thunder getting used to clear sight, I think they just make a gamble and hope that Darker can stay alive, and maybe the players can peek through smokes like Verdi did just then and there.
The Rafa attacking Sage Op, getting pulled out by Union.
This is a pretty big gamble here, though, from Fusion, and it's a calculated one there to just shut down the B play.
Well, exactly that. Rafa just putting himself in a good position over towards B while everyone else fights over on A.
They will get Theory his ultimate. They were fighting for that ore, playing the stack, anticipating maybe some contact here from Union. As I think Fusion wanted to just, get the orb and deny Union to trying to keep them from keeping Theory from getting the orb. Yeah, that's a lot of keepings.
Big layer of surprise has been revealed, though. Rafa missing out on his shot on a rotator, but this leads now into the take from Union. Meathead on the front side, shutting one down. Orbital strike to cover it up, and the lockdown at the same time. What a combo coming in here from Fusion to really halt Union in their tracks. And Meathead continues his streak, getting a third. Rafa finally with the op, shutting it all down, but there's yet another disadvantage for Union.
And there's no way Fusion let this one go. Surely, right? 2 versus 4?
Surely.
On site, and Darker's got util to support as well.
You know about the man on top. They barely saw the barrel, I think. Goo sprayed away.
30 seconds left.
And pressured out by the aftershock, but this is actually a little bit possible here with this angle from Goo. Goo just needs to nail his shots.
A.
That doesn't happen.
Thank you.
And Rafa is gone. Okay, Fusion. What a streak at the end of the half to really keep them in this game.
And to give them momentum and I think just mental confidence that this series isn't over. That was the half that they needed to put numbers up, and they certainly did. 5 rounds to their name and a pretty decent defensive side. Despite the 1-1 versus 4, they played a very solid defensive half. They put aggression where they needed to be. And this last round as well, having to go so well for them is certainly going to help them in terms of moving forward and kind of resetting into this second half here. Fusion have a lot of work to do, but the way that they're looking here in Fracture, a refined and refreshed look we saw on their offensive side against 0 Nation, you have to hope that they can keep that going.
And the Union stepping up against the team in the Fusion. Towards that B side, there might be a big gap. Look at this, 3 players over towards Arcade at the moment. Fusion, almost everyone up into Tree. And this reposition from Edu.
And they absolutely know this is going to be a B hit here from B Tree as well. They've walled it off, they've peered into A main.
They've got under control.
Full dish control over here towards A. Both players ready for anyone to come under, but they don't. And I think this contact here, how quick is Goo to drop a smoke and back away? And where does he drop the smoke?
They're still sending another rotator. Pank going all the way
Oh,
over
the
towards
timing!
B.
He double checks!
And
he's dead.
Goo is gone. Great stuff from Fusion, but may have been a tinge of luck, but they have pulled away the rotation from Pank. Everyone else is on the B side currently. Pank currently has an angle, already looking to start things off with a bang for Union. Just couldn't get the shot in. 2-man advantage for Fusion for the Eco Kings. Rafa, Askia, NTK. Pretty much all 3 coming in from the same side. The other one is trying to come out of sand. Beats Ed. Does take one back. Birdie does the same. NTK is getting chipped down currently on HP, but he finally goes down. But Fusion win yet another pistol. They're actually on a red carpet to tie this game up.
And there's 2 ways that Union will always play that pistol round, which is either they'll rush Rafa down with a slow orb and his wall to get control of the tree, or they'll do that triple push towards Arcade and get the wall up. And I'm not exactly sure if Fusion spotted the wall or if they were just playing, you know, anticipating the fact that they were going to go towards Arcade and maybe anticipating a duel towards Tree instead. But they make a very well-timed rotate to catch Union off guard, even catching Goo out in the open, who so far, despite being dominant in first kills overall, has not had the best of games in that department. And on this offensive side, you're expecting him and Oscar to put a lot of work in together as that duo to get aggression and get space.
Full stack of util there, completely overwhelming Askia, forcing him to run all the way to the hills. Same thing with NTK. Yeah, again, this Fusion team. Again, the levels that we may have seen on Fracture before on their attacking side. Goo trying to return the round back, but this is good here from Fusion, retaking entirely A main as a group, taking away a big lane from Union potentially on their retake, as there was 2 players in that area too. They needed that rush back. Pank with 8 HP has no chance. So Fusion really have tied up this game.
He's got an opportunity to maybe get one more exit, which would certainly damage Fusion's economy. And look at the buy that Fusion came into this round with 2 Bulldogs and a Vandal. A much more typical buy nowadays is picking up these rifles. And especially in such a game that is stacked so heavily against you, you're going to need all the bonuses you can get moving into your bonus round that you can capitalize on and try and make something happen. It's going to go down to the spike at the very end so he gets the full credit bonus.
Pay attention.
Fusion, lethal in their exec so far. We've seen a really nice A hit from both A main and Dish, and working and understanding where they need to focus their attention. They planned it for A main, they retook A main. In the pistol round, they went from A main with a really nice coordinated exit after manipulating Union's rotations, after understanding how they would play that pistol. Now the rifles are out here for Union. And this will be the test here for Fusion, similar to how Pearl went. Once both sides had rifles, that's where Union started to pick up the pace here.
Fusion already starting off.
And I like this
Full A
Fusion
side.
playing a very nice pack mentality, trying to punish.
But it's Askia that's gonna find Theory completely on his own. Everyone else from Union though, readjusting, not knowing what the dish setup is gonna look like. Fusion, almost everyone dropping down, and this just ends up becoming a meat grinder. NTK and Goo, Askia, all 3 picking up frags. Meathead, the last one. That pack mentality you mentioned just led into a funnel.
Meathead has got an opportunity to maybe pull some guns out of the hands of Union, but it doesn't look likely. Fusion just getting slammed in this round. Is Union fully prepared for that take? They spot the KJ lurk, take him down, and how quick of a reaction is that from Meathead or probably not Meathead, Goo to drop that sky smoke and keep Verdi from getting any distance on that blast back. He just gets caught out in the open, punished by a fault line over here towards main. And then that Prowler, Goo just very quickly drops it, and Verdi, for whatever reason, doesn't get the space that he wanted. Just shut down here on the drop.
Last player standing.
And Fusion typically have some pretty nice coordinated execs. They really rely on Verdi to get space, using Darker as his catalyst to set him up. Didn't happen here. There wasn't that combination of util to set Verdi up in an explosive take on A.
Now Fusion trying to take away some early contacts. There's some util over towards A main. There's a solo over towards Arcade, but everyone from Fusion, everyone else at least, going up towards Tree.
Look at Rafa in his wall here. They're going to deny any control towards Jenny, but he's also going to have a really nice elevated angle that he can use. First of all, these trap wires.
Hank needs to back up completely, and the smoke is going to allow them to cross in. What is this smoke, though? What is that lineup from Rafa? Headshot positioning perfect off the wall, and Pank through the smoke getting another kill in the Darker, and no Theory! Theory tried to shut down the actual stack. The molly does hit, actually, off the body of Meathead. But this has just become a disaster for Fusion.
And they are corralled here. Fault line for NTK. I don't think it's been... All right, I don't think it's coming up. He just used it.
And Rafa gets another one. Just becoming light here for Union. In these last two gun rounds, Fusion not really making them sweat, not making them really second guess at all. Starting to look like a cakewalk for the Brazilians.
And Union now within 4. This next one is the swing. If Fusion can get an eco, it would be nice, but I feel Union are just continuing to dogpile on momentum. In this second half here, they got the guns. They were able to stop them pretty effectively again. You can see the Union approach to these retakes, which is maintain back site control. That wall that Rafa's throwing is so difficult to work around if you're an offensive team. And it allows Union a very quick access point to make the retake happen. There's no setting themselves up, just taking back space. It's just they already have it. And that pace is what a lot of teams have struggled with.
And here Union even slowed down Fusion even more. There's such a deep wall and a slower rip behind it.
And it slows any rush that could happen, especially in these eco rounds where Fusion are very keen to take that aggressive look. That wall will just shut you down instantly. And the protocols that they have as well, the cam, the info over towards
there.
Arcade, a slower probably gets dropped there if a spot happens. Over here, the combination with the fault line and everything, that will slow things down even more.
Clearing out. Blinding.
And no matter if Oscar goes down there, NTK holds down whatever hold that happens after Aftershock alongside the Flash at the same time. Fusion.
Headshot.
They still have Meathead.
Smoke's down.
Meathead
Cage
picks up Rafa. They don't know about Pank. Pank is probably the most dangerous member of this entire hold. What a cheeky little tripwire right in front of him. And of course, that's a prime angle to pick away 1 or 2, but make it 3 for Pank. Double digits. Now for Union and Fusion are running out of time, running out of cash.
I love watching Pank play and how smart he is at anchoring his sights. Like, he was incredible on Pearl. He was top frag, had like 18 kills last time, from what I can remember, apologies. And just here again, just having really good timing on this swing, not even using his cam, just understanding how this team would approach it. Union just have got incredible players, and that is what's made them such a formidable team on an individual level. They compare to our North American teams, M80, the Garden, on an individual level, and plus the confidence and the coordination. Fusion match on that level individually, but they don't have that extra depth of team fighting that Union have brought every single game.
Now Fusion,
They don't reach the trap wire here.
they're trying to adopt the same style, but Union maybe closing down space before Fusion really have a chance to get
Theory
comfortable.
onto the ultimate. He might pop it here.
Yeah, but 3-man flank Finally pops it, but Meathead has to go absolutely huge here. They have a lot of space to work with. These 3 players flanking. They can make it all the way up the tree, no problems. Here comes Askia with a showstopper. Can he clear the angle? Can he clear the corner? There's 2 players here. Do they know about Meathead? They don't know about Meathead. Meathead, he's gonna get 1 for free, make it 2. Huge from Meathead. And Meathead continues the kill streak as Rafa and Pank, last 2 remaining. And Fusion have given themselves a chance. Union put everything on that 3-man flank, and they get nothing out of it.
Jesus, Fusion, what a way to keep yourself alive. A fault line from Darker, all the way from Arcade. Stunned Askia and gave just an extra second for Theory to make that rotation. And why Theory's so important is he's the bait. He's everything. And why would you expect a player to be tucked in a corner where a fault line was just set? Meathead keeping his team alive. He's one of the players on this team that everyone highlighted coming into this event. And he stepped up here massively when his team needed it most to stay in this series. But to stay in the series, you gotta keep these players alive. And Meathead finding the 4th, thankfully. And keeping 3 players up. Fusion were not out of the woods economically, but now they're in a pretty comfortable spot as Union have got another bye here. But this is the round that everyone has to keep their eyes on.
Look at this play again, as it did everything for Fusion to even stay in this game. Again, their economy was in shambles. They would have been reset.
Jeez, and look at the stack as well. The Nightfall. Verdi with his showstopper
Player
as well.
under, right.
They were just so quick to spin back and help support. Aware of the possible flank, and Fusion punished Union. Not a word that we say, or not a phrase that we say all that often, is Union getting punished. Now within 2 here, and some ults to work with. Just the 1 here for Meathead, but Darker not far off his.
Rafa has pulled out the op once again, and he almost found a bit of a party in front of him over in A main.
Going for another dish hit with, not the showstar, apologies, the single blast back from Verdi. And we'll see how good it is here. He used it early in B main to try and establish that control and get an ult orb. But now he's pivoted back towards A, and it is only NTK on site. That's a very well-timed wall, though, from Rafa to support this dish play now. Look at this, he's got a slow orb as well, and that's what kept, or can keep, apologies, Verdi from getting aggressive.
Right, and the rotation coming in at the same time from Union to try to call them out. Pank almost making the right call over towards A, but Fusion...
Is Verdi setting a solo fake up here? It's interesting because they've just dropped so much util.
Is he gonna satchel in?
30 seconds left. They can't make a pivot back if they want to use Verdi. He's just looking for lurks
30
now.
seconds left.
Darker already picking up the ult art. They're making noise all over this map, and a rolling thunder straight up into sight. Is this gonna be a lurk?
Askia, what?
Unbelievable, Askia! Finding Theory out of nowhere, but now Verdi, again, he's making his flank. He does pick up 1. There's still a couple more to go, but it all comes down to the hold on site where Pank and Goo have it all, and Union steps closer now to the winners finals.
I can see the idea here from Fusion is they wanted to have Verdi be the uncanny flank because typically he's the one that's going in off of that rolling thunder. It's always Darker setting him up for success. But this fault line missing Askia was the deal breaker. It was just a hair too far forward or a little bit too far to the right in the perspective of Darker. And Askia able to find a nice double, falling off as well. He gets so lucky to get that second headshot. And now there's got to be something that Fusion can do. This is a technical pause, not a tactical pause, so they don't have time to speak here. They have time to think things over as a team individually.
What a tough time to do so. Union thrown out them in terms of ideas from Fusion.
Kamikaze will surely be thinking what he wants to say. I imagine there's going to be a tactical coming right after, as soon as his technical is closed, just so Kamikaze can figure out what he wants to say to his Fusion boys and see what he can do to get them back in, because that round just felt very disconjointed. Like, the idea was there, but no entry. Askia on B. It already felt like it wasn't going to go according to plan, and it doesn't. And there's no tactical timeout. They're getting right back into it.
Right.
This is everything here. Not a lot of credits left over for Fusion, and the lost bonus isn't in their favor either. This is the round that will make or break this series.
What does Rafa have here in terms of support? It's just going to be Rafa hitting in the first shot, dropping in a slow orb, and backing the hell out.
I think he's going to drop a wall here, a smoke, maybe even a fault line as well, spin back to NTK.
Got the first shot. Rafa needing to back up. He's stunned up, pulling up the wall. He's not safe. No, the wall. It doesn't extend all the way. And how does Verdi get another one there? NTK out in the open, and he's gone. Askia still waiting for a contact in A main, but his teammate is coming instead.
And Pank needs to get here quickly. They need to maintain this A main control. It's pressure that will be applied, and the spike is not going to get planted in a comfortable spot. Asuka's been given a chance to slip through due to the timing of that orbital strike.
Askia can walk on in, but instead he just utilizes the nade to try.
Punishing!
Pick away the spike. Well done with Goo being there for the ping pong. And now Meathead, in theory, last two remaining, trying to take on all of Union. In theory, does shut it down early, but instead now, a 1v2 for Theory as Meathead goes down! And Theory has no chance. Union, one away from the winners finals.
And such great coordination between Asuka and NTK. NTK knows where that nade is going to force his opponent out in the open, but why is no one watching that area? Fusion, they were smoked off towards drop from one smoke of Goo, but nobody swings out, nobody looks to cover that area towards tower. And yeah, there's a smoke here that allowed him to make this swing, but there's a player on the drop that can watch it as well. Fusion not having their protocol set up for this post plant, and it's a very costly one to lose despite having everything going their way. And the fact is, Asuka maintaining his A main control, preventing the orbital strike from getting set or the molly to get set. Union had everything going for them in that round.
That goes there.
Fusion, a scrappy bye, and what could be the last round of their upper bracket run here.
3 coming up into Arcade. Union, they have so many options here. 3 players here in the middle of this B site. They already get covered up a little bit. Pank forced to inch his way up a little bit if he wants to cover up Arcade immediately.
And there's a Rolling Thunder retake as well if NTK really needs to use it.
Oh, footstep heard.
Look at the crosshair setup as well. Orbital strike has gone towards tower a couple of times from Fusion. Verdi begins to move.
Oh, and Ferdy doesn't even get his showstopper out, and instead Askia returns the favor with his own, and everyone else from the Union bites down on Fusion. One more to go, and it is Edu to try to keep his team in it, but it's not gonna happen. The Union make their way to the Buckeye and Boo, and Brazil have a spot in winners finals.
6 maps won and only 2 maps played. Lotus and, or apologies, Pearl and Fracture have been the only 2 maps that we have seen from this roster, and they have won every single one, undefeated, making their run in the upper bracket and going to the upper bracket finals. The Union are looking like a different beast right now. They are so well coordinated, and whatever worries we had going into this game, Union, I think, completely dispelling them despite having so much tape on them right now.
Yeah, again, the Union have been dominant on these 2 maps. I mean, again, we saw the exact same thing happen throughout the group stages. We saw the same thing against Fusion. Again, this team that much more prepared than this roster, but Fusion did show their glimpses. Not enough. Didn't show the changes that we truly wanted to see from yesterday against 0-0, and they have their chance now in the losers bracket to potentially make their way back.
The current tournament favorites, Union sweeping LATAM under the rug. Both LATAM teams currently in the lower bracket. Our analyst desk will have everything ready for you to break down this match.
I gotta say, guys, I was a lot more worried coming into this match than maybe I should have been, but regardless, it's still gonna be the Union continuing that dominance here in Ascension. What a performance coming out, Shift.
Yeah, you know, we got to give our flowers to Fusion in this second map. They really did give a lot of headaches to Union. The problem here is that the Union's just a very special team, and special teams are going to make special plays. And very regularly, the difference maker in 2 matchups, or 2 teams that are matched up very evenly on a particular map, is that someone's going to take over, and we saw that across the board on pretty much all 5 members of the Union at any given moment in time. So many different clutch ability moments that come through that really are the difference maker in my mind, because flat out, yeah, did the Fusion make a couple of execution mistakes? Sure, but they weren't insalvageable moments. There were definitely rounds out there where they would have loved to have had back. The 1v3 in particular, I think, will definitely stay in our minds. It's just too many moments overall where the special individual plays for the Union came out in one key rounds for them, flipping economy, flipping momentum, taking away ultimates that looked like they were going to be hitting really nicely for Fusion. It just was one of those maps that's just like, darn, woulda, coulda, shoulda. So it's tough scenes for Fusion because they did play this map pretty darn tight.
And that is the most heartbreaking thing about Fusion, is that a lot of these matches, a lot of these maps, they leave you with that feeling of, what if this round went the other way? What if this little play went the right way, the way that they wanted to. That is always the feeling that I have with Fusion. And for this one, although it was in the defense and they came in getting some rounds, it was once again not enough against the Union. And I feel like, honestly, we were talking about it. Are they going to play like yesterday? Are they going to play absolutely insane? Verdi honestly had some great moments, but it's still just a heartbreak to be in that lower bracket.
Hey, but they're not out of it. So Fusion, I feel like they've been a little hot, a little cold sometimes, but we've gotten to see them progressively get better and better with time. So hopefully the lower bracket run is going to be, I think, Shift, maybe exactly what this team needs.
Yeah, and I'm actually, I guess I wasn't really paying attention too much to the KD. I thought Darker played a better game than 5 and 17. It definitely felt like his utility was making good use for Fusion to follow up on. So I was actually kind of surprised to see him just staying on 5. I knew that he wasn't killing all that well, but I wouldn't have put him that low on overall KD. So when it comes to things like team influence, the stuff that we're really looking for Fusion that they're missing out on in groups, it still showed okay here. I don't think you could look back at this map overall and say the team wasn't playing well. It just came down to those you can't have it moments. You know, the clutches that came through, I think they only got credit for one, but it felt like there were way more than that. The ability for the Union to follow up off of the small mistakes, that's what we look for out of a great team. Their ability to expose you and turn, you know, a small mistake into a massive moment. And it just happened to be that those small mistakes came in rounds that were difference makers in terms of things like economy, ultimate advantage, stuff like that I already mentioned.
And I know that Fusion, they're not eliminated yet, right? They have the lower bracket run, and there's a chance that they can have a deep run there, but it does come to a point where you start to question, are they going too far when it comes to the ideas that they have, not only the compositions, but some of the executions that they have, some of the plans that they have at the beginning of the rounds? Are they not only cooking, but burning the kitchen? Is it really going the other way, in the way that you don't want to? And I think about, of course, the composition on Pearl that has some good ideas, but needs more time at least to see it really prosper the way that they want to. Or even on this map of Fracture, where we got to see a Verdi on Race playing by himself, trying to go on a flank where everybody knew where this guy was going to be, ends up being completely surrounded and taken down. It is understanding when this team has to back up, has to take a step back, and really think about how they're going to move forward, because that is what's going to be needed for that lower bracket.
Yeah, and I think we lost Shift here going on into things, but while we get him connected, Dan, there was something I wanted to talk about and circle back to, because you mentioned the fact there is the what if factor coming out from Fusion. What if something in the rounds went a little bit differently? And there's one really big round that I know that we're on the same page here thinking of it.
I mean, we were talking in the green room and we saw this 1v3, and I was like, actually, I'm not confident Fusion wins this. The 3v1 that should in paper go your way no matter what team you are, and it actually ends up being lost. But the important thing here is that we get to see kind of every single version of the Union, right? The Union that gets insane clutches, a 1v3 clutch, a 1v2 clutch constantly, and the Union that, like we got to see on that last round, likes to go in a flank, has a set place towards the beginning, and even if it gets shut down, they're still bringing new things to the table, even if it doesn't always mean let's bring a crazy composition in.
I feel like there's so much we could say about this team. So it'll be exciting to see them continue that lower bracket run. And of course, congratulations to the Union. Shift coming back just in time to hear that we're ascending to a break to get the next series ready. We got to give it to you to your timing. Up next, though, we're going to be having M80 in the guard. Definitely not a series that you want to be having technical issues for. So glad you're back, everybody. Be tuned, because we'll be back soon.
Out of game, I'm afraid of ocean, deep ocean. Deep ocean for sure. I could swim in the ocean, but like not deep ocean. But inside the game, a jet player peeking me, because then he can just dash away. Then I have to go round 2 with him. That's not fun.
I guess in game, I'm afraid of not losing, but losing without giving my max. So I guess there's this in game, and out game, I'm afraid of snakes.
I think in game is like losing the control of my mind
in a way I can get back of the game. So sometimes you need to keep the equilibrium, something like that. Out of the game, I think I'm afraid of scorpions.
Dentro de la partida, capaz quedarme sin ideas. Ese sentimiento de no saber qué hacer es un poco difícil. Y por fuera de la partida, capaz el pre-game, un poco los nervios, pero nada del otro mundo.
In game, I'm not really afraid of nothing. Out of game either. I think I have a very confident personality. The way I carry myself is a lot of confidence. I'm not really scared to fail in life or in game. So
what I'm afraid of in game is being readable, especially me being the IGL. Sometimes it feels like my strat is kind of too simple. But oftentimes in reality, it's not as simple as you think in your head. And that's a battle for me that I struggle with. Out of game, something I fear is not putting in the most effort that I could. And that means like in my daily regimen, like not going to the gym in the morning, not getting sunlight, like all that stuff kind of comes together during the match. And that's why I try to make sure I'm on top of everything so I can feel very confident going into it that I did everything I could.
in game, I don't know yet, but I think I'm afraid not to play good. Out game, I didn't think of that yet, but maybe just like lose. Yeah, I think like that, lose. I don't want to lose, yeah. I'm scared of losing.
¿A qué le temo dentro y fuera del juego? No es temer, sino respeto a la ansiedad, nervios.
Dentro del juego le temo a no mostrar todo mi potencial y no hacer lo mejor, no dar lo mejor de mí. Y fuera del juego me da miedo fracasar.
In game, I'm afraid of like losing and like our team falling apart. Like after all of this, like yeah, I guess okay, I'll say it. I'm afraid of losing Ascension and like not knowing like the future, I guess, of our team. And outside of the game, spiders, because my mom, she like made me terrified of them because she's scared of them and she would always like yell, "Spider, spider."
I'd say fear in game, getting eco'd. It's pretty scary. Out of game, I would probably say, well, it's not now, but when I was a kid, I used to be kind of scared of like zombies. I don't know why.